Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks and I can't believe sitting here on the morning of July 9th wanting to preview a new Scottish Professional Football League season. Doesn't feel that long ago that the last one that finished with the Scottish Cup final for St Johnstone against Hibs, but here we are at the start of a new one. Going to be really busy now up until, well, the end of next May really. So yeah, going to be a really busy one. Going to be plenty of twists and turns, especially at the start, I think, and I'll touch on that a wee bit in this video. But yes, Scottish football is back. It's back tonight. Two fixtures: Edinburgh City versus Hamilton Accies, and Kelty Hearts versus Dundee United. Is how the season kicks off in the newly named Premier Sports Cup. We know it better as the League Cup. So yeah, we'll look at the sort of first round of fixtures. We probably won't preview every single round of fixtures for the League Cup A because I have because with press conferences coming back to in person, I simply don't have the time. And yeah, I think it would get a bit monotonous. Me sitting here every 2 days or whatever it is, previewing different fixtures and different things like that. So we'll do one looking at the Premier Sports Cup group stages as a whole, some of the issues that are sort of cropping up seemingly. We'll hear from a couple of managers we've spoken to already. Don't have a full complement of managers for the first round of fixtures simply because of the way it's broken up and things like that. A lot of the stuff as I record this, I'm doing their press on the Friday, so we've only got a few, but well worth listening to regardless. So yeah, we'll go through the groups and preview the groups instead of the individual matches. If you do want to know the matches for the first weekend, if you will, on July 10th, we kick off, as I've said, Edinburgh City, Hamilton, Kelty Hearts, Dundee United on the Saturday. Just to run through them: Airdrie Annan, Albion Rovers, Ayr United, Brechin City, Livingston, Cove Rangers, Stirling Albion, Cowdenbeath, Raith Rovers, Dumbarton, St Mirren, East Kilbride, Kilmarnock, Elgin City, Arbroath, Forfar, Ross County has now been suspended. So we'll get into that in a wee bit. Montrose v Brora Rangers, Partick Thistle, Dunfermline, Peterhead Hearts, Queen of the South, Queen's Park, and Stranraer Morton. Other teams kick off on the Tuesday, which sort of brings us into match day 2 for some and start of the season for some others. Clyde Stranraer, Morton, East Kilbride, Alloa Athletic, Cowdenbeath, Annan Queen of the South, Ayr United, Edinburgh City, Dumbarton versus Stenhousemuir, Dundee, Brora Rangers, Falkirk, Albion Rovers, Forfar Montrose, Hearts Cove, Inverness, Peterhead, Raith Rovers, Brechin City, St Mirren, Dunfermline, Arbroath, East Fife, Dundee United, Elgin City, and Queen's Park, Motherwell, and Breed. So yeah, really busy. Right up until the league season starts as well. Of course, we've also got some teams still playing pre-season friendlies in the middle of that. We've got Hibs v Arsenal, probably the headline one. As recorded this today, we're going to be at Dundee West Ham. So do check that out, our coverage of that. We should hopefully, we'll definitely speak to people in the Dundee camp and we'll maybe have some stuff from the Premier League camp as well. So yeah, I think that's all the bone PR stuff out of the way. Do remember to subscribe and like this video. We'll run through the group then. Should start before we run through the groups actually on Ross County's situation. They have had their game against Forfar Athletic called off. They had a COVID-19 outbreak this week. So Forfar have been awarded a 3-0 victory for that game, and it makes it very hard for Ross County to get out that group. Dundee are the other team in that group who are perhaps on par with them. So that's the all Premiership group for this one, and it's very hard to see how Ross County get out this group. It's not a situation that's resolved. They have got a bit of time to clear it up. I don't think they play until a week on Sunday as I record this against Dundee. So there is time for people to get out of isolation and things like that. But it's right at the start of pre-season. Most of the clubs that are playing in this tournament have not been back in pre-season for any longer than 2 weeks. So there's still this tournament this year. We had it started in the middle of the season last year for Premiership clubs, although it didn't really help the lower league clubs who were coming into off the back of the 6-month break. This is only a 6-week break, really, for these clubs. Obviously, the lower leagues finished a bit earlier than the Premiership, but it's going to be difficult for Ross County. They're going to basically, I mean, this first 10 days or whatever it is, they've been back in pre-season's pretty much wiped with everybody in the house. So it's going to be really interesting. A lot of pre-season friendlies for a lot of clubs have been cancelled, and with life penciled in for going back to normal in Scotland on August 9th, albeit sort of reports coming out today that that might even be pushed back to the middle of August. Don't know, it's very unknown. But you would like to think at some stage between maybe now and the first international break, we're likely to see Scotland move into some sort of normality. Level 0 comes into effect during this Premier Sports Cup group stages. Hearts will get 2,000 fans in at their game against Cove, I think. So you would like to think at some stage we're going to move back to normal in this season. And the questions asked, we've asked a few managers this week. How does football go back to normal with the virus? Asked a few. Jim Goodwin answered it really well, and this was his response to that question.
No, there's not been any real dialogue regarding what happens next. To be honest with you, we got the protocol sent through from the JRG and from the SFA about pretty much rules and regulations will stay the same for now as what they were last season, and that's the template that we're working off of. And until told otherwise, then that's what we have to do. I'm desperate to do away with this testing. I really am. I think it's a huge frustration for every club out there, and obviously a very big expense as well. So I think that's hopefully will happen around about that time you're talking about. It's very frustrating when you're sitting watching the European Championships and you're seeing 60,000 people crammed into Wembley last night, and we're only allowed to have 500 at our game here next Tuesday. So I do think, listen, there's a time for precaution, and I do think that we need to come out of it in a steady manner. But I hope there's no setbacks along the way. I think now is, we've had a long 17, 18 months of being locked up and being told what to do and where to go and when to do it. And I think now the public are desperate just to get back to some normality. And I think the vaccine programme will hopefully help with that.
So yeah, interesting times ahead. I think we're going to see a lot more COVID disruption in the early part of this season than we did the last year, and there was a lot of COVID disruption at the end of the start of last season. So that probably tells you the scale of what we're probably going to face. We'll start with the groups and we'll go through these quickly. Cove, Rangers, Hearts, Inverness, Peterhead, Stirling, Albion. Hearts and Inverness are forever bound to get each other in these group stages, I think. But you would like to think Hearts would get through this. They've not done a hell of a lot of transfer business, but they've still got by far and away the strongest squad in this group and should be able to coast through. I think the outside bet would be Cove, Rangers. Inverness are still building their squad ahead of the new season. Cove, Rangers have added a lot of bodies. So yeah, I'd tip Cove, Rangers an outside bet to finish second in this group, perhaps sneak their way into the last 16. But we heard from Hearts manager Robbie Nielsen ahead of this. He's appointed Craig Gordon as his captain to replace Stephen Naismith, who has become football development manager at Hearts, and he says it was the only choice for the Tynecastle captaincy.
Yeah, we spoke to the players today, and Craig Gordon will be the captain for the coming season. Last season I thought he did really well. Brilliant experience, great leadership capabilities. He's played at the highest level for a long time, and obviously came through the Hearts Academy as well. So delighted to have him as a captain this season, and I'm sure he'll do well. Yes, he is very popular. He leads by example. He's been over the course in football for a number of years now. Played at the highest level, played international, still playing international, played the Euros, which was great. And we hope he continues to play at that level for us for a number of years. I don't think so. I think it's always good to have the guys further back that can communicate, but I think with Craig, his leadership skills, you can see it about the place. He's top character, and he's definitely earned that the job of captain for the club. I think it's important that the dressing room has a say. So I spoke to Craig today about putting that together. He'll decide who comes into that group.
Group B are both Dundee United, East Fife, Elgin City and Kelly Hearts. Really ironic opener for this one, with Thomas Courts being the new head coach of Dundee United and taking on his former club, Kelly Hearts, who used to manage a wee while ago. Really interesting appointment by Dundee United. It's either going to go one or two ways, I think it'd be fair to say. I know that you can say that for all managers, but there's probably safer bets. You could have probably got somebody off the merry-go-round, but I think this is quite an exciting appointment for Scottish football. Really, you don't really see a lot of this type of promotion internally, especially at a club the size of Dundee United. So really interested to see how that works out. A tough test. I think Kevin Thompson's Kelly Hearts is obviously going under serious changes as they go into the SPFL. Signed some really good players, but again, you would like to think Dundee United get through this. Our both East Fife and Elgin City make up that group. Kelly Hearts have strengthened. They're a League 2 team, but I'd say they've got a League 1 team, so Kelly Hearts might be a decent bet as well for second, although you would think that Arbroath will perhaps get into second place in that one. Broad Rangers, Dundee, Forfar, Montrose and Ross County. We've already touched on Ross County situations. The big talking point in this group. Forfar are already top of the group, which gives them a much welcome 3 points at Ross County's expense. If we eliminate Ross County from this, you would definitely say Dundee, Forfar, Montrose and Broad Rangers. Dundee should pretty much coast this group, and even in there, they've got a trip to Dingwall, but that trip to Dingwall is probably going to be against a depleted Ross County, or at least a very tired Ross County after the last wee while they've been going through. So you expect Dundee to walk this group, and the group completely opens up now. That Ross County could perhaps be at a serious disadvantage. Forfar get a good chance to maybe go through to the last 16, and if they can get a couple of positive results against Montrose and Brora, they're in a really good position. Alloa, Brecon, Cowdenbeath, Livingston, Raith Rovers. I think this group's pretty easy to determine. Brecon back down the Highland League now, been an absolutely awful few years for them. You would think that they would be, without what I call them whipping boys, they're probably the team you fancy playing in this group. I think St Johnstone really kick-started their season against Brecon last year. It went on to be not too bad for them. Raith Rovers, Livingston are the clear favourites for this. I can't see anybody by them. I think it'll be even. I think the winner of that game pretty much wins the group for me. Albion Rovers, Edinburgh City, Ayr United, Falkirk and Hamilton. We heard from Falkirk coach Paul Sheeran ahead of this. He's just been appointed the head coach at the Falkirk Stadium after his coaching role under Derek Kinson and Tony Docherty at Aberdeen. He says he's learnt so much from them, and it should boost him in the upcoming season with Falkirk.
I think I've had 7 brilliant years up at Aberdeen, working with arguably the best manager and one of the best assistant managers over the years in Scotland, and Derek McInnes and Tony Docherty. So I've been involved in every match day for the moment I went into the club, domestically and European. So I'd like to think I've picked up plenty on that. I've had experience of management, albeit at part-time level. This is my first opportunity, obviously, at full-time level. I'd like to think that I bring a modern approach, a freshness. We demand standards, certainly as a staff, and an intensity to how we work. So I think overall, who knows yet? Who knows what I'll bring? But as it stands, this is an opportunity for me at a brilliant football club to test myself as a manager in a full-time environment, and I'll do all I can to take that opportunity. It's no huge difference in terms of how I coach and the demands I put on players. The difference is the end game now. Obviously, you're developing individuals at Aberdeen, and the main focus is getting players into the first team. The focus now here is winning games and trying to achieve promotion, as difficult as that'll be, but that'll have to be our aim as a football club. So it's just the end game's a bit different in terms of my day-to-day work. Not a huge change other than the individual development's a lot higher at Aberdeen than probably what it needs to be here at Falkirk.
Always an interesting one. The Ackies are the Premiership team, if you will. Obviously, they get the seeded top rank in this from their time in the Premiership last season. Although I think it could be tight. Hamilton haven't traditionally performed too well in these group stages. They have seemed to be slow starters when it comes to this competition. They suffered a couple of really disappointing results in it last year. I think Stranraer was obviously the big one for them. So yeah, I think this group's pretty open. You could probably say Falkirk, Ayr United, Hamilton. I think Edinburgh City are a good wee team in League 2. They could probably cause an upset. I think it's Albion Rovers if they manage to do something as well. Who knows? This group's pretty open. It's pretty hard to predict. Falkirk are building a decent team, but they're still light bodies, I think, especially up top. And it's tight. I'll say that much. Airdrie, Annan, Mull, Queen of South and Queen's Park for Group F. And this one should be a Motherwell to the top. Mull have performed really well in these group stages every time they've been in it. I think the only time they finished second, I believe, in the group was the inaugural year for this competition when Rangers were in the group with them from their place in the Championship. Apart from that, they've been really comfortable in these groups. Still a lot of work to be done on the recruitment side at Mull. They are still looking to bring in another, I think, maybe 5 or 6 players. Perhaps maybe a wee bit less, give or take on either side of that number. But yeah, they should be able to have enough to get through this. Queen's Park, Queen of the South, they are in a difficult group. They're sort of with a couple of teams who are full time, one team who's sort of a hybrid. They're used to trips to Annan as well. Mull Airdrie is obviously the exciting fixture. It's been a wee while since the, as Mullow fans would probably call it, the proper Lanarkshire derby with the two North Lanarkshire teams. But yeah, Mullow should do enough to get through this group. I think everybody apart from Airdrie in this group, they've faced a couple of times in these group stages, so they know what to expect. But you'd like to think Mullow should get through this all right. Group G, Clyde, East Kilbride, Morton, Kilmarnock and Stranraer. Yeah, Kilmarnock are obviously the Premiership team if you will from their standing in the league. You'd like to think with Lowland League side, League 2, and yeah, they should get through this, no bother. Tommy Rice made some really good signings, Premiership signings, I would say. They've kept the Premiership budget to try and get up at the first time of asking in the Championship, and it'll be good to see early doors what they are made of. And then finally, Group H, probably I would say, in terms of the games, it looks the most exciting. Dumbarton, Dunfermline, Partick Thistle, St Mirren and Stenhousemuir. Dunfermline, Partick Thistle and St Mirren could be really tight. I think St Mirren should have enough, obviously being so close to the top 6 last year, but Dunfermline and Partick Thistle will be a good battle to see who gets that sort of second place. We'll be at that game at Firhill tomorrow as I record this. What else will be at? We'll be at Kilmarnock, East Kilbride as well, might be a couple others as well, just depending on numbers and stuff in the press boxes. But yeah, that's all we've got time for on this. Do hope you enjoyed. There's a bit here, there and everywhere, but get used to it. This is what the Scottish football season is going to be like, I think, over the next it's going to be 10 months now, which is really bizarre to think. They'll get 10 months of season to come. But yeah, do remember to subscribe to stick with us throughout the full. We've had a lot of exclusive interviews over the last sort of few weeks with Graham Mathie, Hibs director, and Alan Campbell has just made a big move from Mullow to Luton Town. So we are getting these type of exclusives. We've got another one, the Scotland under-21s and Manchester City prospect Lewis Fiorini just completed a move to Lincoln City, and he's signed long-term at Manchester City until 2026. So do check that out when it comes out on Sunday. And until then, take it easy.